Have you ever wondered why knowing what to do and actually doing it feel like two different worlds? You read the books, watch the podcasts, absorb the science. You know how to sleep better, focus deeper, eat healthier, and achieve more. Yet somehow, when the moment comes to act, your brain resists. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow or next week or when life calms down. But tomorrow becomes another today. Knowledge without action turns into quiet frustration. And this is where most people stop, trapped in the gap between what they know and what they live. But what if that gap isn't a failure of willpower at all? What if it's a misunderstanding of how your brain actually works? Science has spent decades studying human behavior, and what it's discovered is both humbling and empowering. Your brain is not wired for success. It's wired for survival. It's not designed to make you happy or disciplined. It's designed to keep you alive, comfortable, and efficient. Every decision you make passes through a filter that asks one question. Is this safe? That's why every time you try to change, to evolve, to take on something new, your mind doesn't cheer. It hesitates. It interprets uncertainty as danger. The part of your brain that still carries the instincts of ancient humans activates an invisible alarm, whispering, "Stay where you are. Don't risk it. Don't fail." But here's where the science gets fascinating. Inside your brain, there's a constant negotiation happening between two systems. The primitive emotional brain, fast, instinctive, fear-driven, and the rational prefrontal cortex, slow, thoughtful, strategic. Every act of self-mastery is really a conversation between these two parts. When you procrastinate, it's not because you're lazy. It's because your emotional brain won that round. When you follow through despite fear, it's because your rational brain stayed in control long enough to rewrite the script. This is where self-mastery begins. Not by fighting your biology, but by learning to work with it. You can't bully your brain into discipline. You have to train it the way a scientist trains an experiment, with patience, repetition, and curiosity. Neuroscience shows that every thought and action leaves a physical trace, a neural pathway. The more you repeat a behavior, the stronger that pathway becomes until it becomes automatic. That's how habits are born. Confidence, focus, motivation. These aren't mysterious traits some people are born with. They're neural patterns built one choice at a time. The mistake most people make is thinking change happens through emotion, waiting to feel ready, inspired, motivated. But the truth is reverse. Emotion follows action, not the other way around. Dopamine, the brain's chemical of motivation, doesn't appear before you start. It appears after. The smallest step forward, even something as simple as writing the first sentence or tying your running shoes, creates a tiny burst of reward that reinforces the behavior. Science calls this the behavior-reward loop. Over time, that loop becomes self-sustaining. You stop chasing motivation and start generating it. But mastery isn't just about building habits. It's about understanding what drives them. Deep inside your limbic system lies a structure called the amygdala, the guardian of your fear response. It's the reason you overthink, the reason you doubt, the reason comfort feels magnetic. The amygdala doesn't understand long-term goals. It understands survival. So when you try to write that book, quit that job, or start that business, it sends a signal that says, this is new. New is dangerous. Your heart races, your stomach tightens, and your brain looks for escape, distraction, procrastination, comfort. The trick isn't to silence that signal. It's to reinterpret it. Instead of, I'm anxious because I'm in danger, you learn to say, I'm anxious because I'm expanding. That shift from fear to growth is the foundation of self-mastery. It's what allows scientists, athletes, and creators to operate at the edge of discomfort and call it home. Every great performer in history understood this at some level. They didn't eliminate fear. They befriended it. They used the biological stress response as energy, a sign that their brain was alert, engaged, alive. Science calls this the challenge response. You can train your mind to reframe stress from a threat into a signal of readiness. And once you do, every moment of fear becomes fuel. Another powerful insight from neuroscience is the idea of neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience. The person you are today isn't fixed. It's a reflection of the patterns you've reinforced. If you've spent years doubting yourself, avoiding risk, or hesitating before action, your brain has simply practiced that pattern into strength. But the moment you begin to act differently, even in tiny doses, you start to carve new pathways. The brain doesn't care whether the change is big or small. It only cares about consistency. The key to transformation isn't dramatic breakthroughs. It's steady rewiring. Each repetition sends a message. This is who I am now. And that's the essence of where science meets self-mastery. Using the language of biology to sculpt the architecture of behavior. It's the merging of knowledge and discipline, theory and practice. It's realizing that your emotions, habits, and motivations aren't mysterious forces outside your control, for they're systems that can be studied, understood, and upgraded. You're both the experiment and the scientist. You observe, adjust, and evolve. So when you catch yourself stuck, delaying that goal, doubting your abilities, or waiting to feel ready, remember this: your brain isn't broken. It's simply following its oldest code to protect you. But you are no longer that ancient human hiding from the wild. You're the conscious designer of your evolution. Each time you take action in the face of hesitation, you're literally rewriting your brain. Each small win is a micro-evolution in consciousness. In the end, self-mastery isn't about perfection. It's about understanding your machinery well enough to steer it. The science of the brain is the science of becoming. And the deeper you learn how your mind works, the more power you have to shape who you become. Knowledge gives you the map, but discipline is the vehicle. When science meets self-mastery, you stop living on autopilot and start engineering your own growth. Because mastery isn't about controlling the world. It's about understanding the one instrument that shapes it all, your mind.